For the longest time, I secretly wanted more. I often found myself shrinking to fit in, settling for what was comfortable, and even selling myself short. Once I finally accepted that we deserve success and we are blessed with the power to achieve it, I stopped playing small. I'm serious about building a life I love, and you should be too. I'm Denise Taylor of DeniseTaylor.live, and welcome to Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness. I help women prioritize themselves, their success, and their happiness. Let's meet this week's achiever whose story will inspire you to push past your fears and soar. Well, hello. I just wanted to sneak in and welcome you to this episode of Life, Love, in the Pursuit of Happiness. Today is very special. Recently in my DeniseTaylor.live virtual event, I hosted 5 wonderful couples who came and shared their experiences and great wisdom. And today, I am so pleased to bring to this podcast the interview that I did with the Clays. Our hot topic, was in sickness and in health. Going from a clean bill of health to 2 months later, finding yourself undergoing brain surgery is traumatic. We're going to learn from this couple how they weathered that storm and how they are continuing to love one another through it and after it. So thank you for tuning in. Let's check it out. Well, welcome to the Clays. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being a part of Couples Love Week, and welcome. So I'm going to tell y'all on a train that's already rolling. We have had great conversations the last 2 nights, and I know with your bubbling personalities, we are going to have even more tonight as we dive a little bit into the victory that you got health-wise, Mr. Mike. I think about Amen is right. I think about to when we first met and how each of our lives have evolved since then, and I'm sure we'll touch on some of that. And hello, MJ, how are you? You doing?
I'm good. Right? I'm here, but I'm good.
All right. It's good to see you both. One of the things I just want to call out really quickly for those who have been with us and for those who have may have missed a night or two, the replays will be made available for everyone to check out. So that's really, really exciting. And so you'll see people popping in the chat, and we always like to get some insight into where people are checking in from. So I'm sure that a person or two will tell us where they're checking in from in the chat. Now, while we're doing that, Mike, I want you to do the honors of introducing your beautiful wife to us this evening. And I love to do these types of introductions. We got people from Texas and Maryland and South Carolina, North Carolina, of course, here in Charlotte. They are
Charlotte represent.
Yeah, they're all here to support you, but that's not going to get you off the hook from being able to give us an introduction of your beautiful wife. So, Mike, take the floor and introduce MJ to us.
So this is my beautiful wife, MJ, or Mika, as some know her. We have been, oh, Lord have mercy, I'm about to mess up the numbers. We've been married a long time.
Whoa.
But no, the cool thing about me and Mika is we are, we're both native Charlotteans. We went to the same high school. She says we went to the same preschool, but I don't remember that.
We did.
But so I wasn't trying to holler at her in preschool, but high school is when she caught my eye. But no, seriously, we were friends in high school, and then we went separate ways for college, and then through a mutual friend, we reconnected when she was in grad school, law school, and I always had a little crush on her in high school, but never, as the young folks say, shot my shot. Mm-hmm. So through the mutual friend, I got her information, and we connected, and here we are, 2 kids later, old and gray, and
and enjoying life, right?
Enjoying life, yes. And I don't mean to jump ahead, but through the situation that we went through last year, She was an amazing, I mean, you know how people cliche say that's my rock. She was my rock through the whole situation we had to go through last year.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to tap into some of that because believe it or
Okay.
not, I have had a lot of women reach out when they have concerns about their husband's health. And so, you guys, I got some great questions for you on how, from your perspective as a husband and a man, when they're approaching and really concerned about their husband's health. And you, Mika, I flip between Mika and MJ, so we just gonna roll with that.
You're family, so you can.
Okay.
You can.
And you in that supportive role. Before we get too far, I want you to do the same thing, MJ. I want you to introduce Mike to us.
Well, this is my husband, my wonderful husband, Mike. He doesn't tell the whole story. We actually went to preschool, elementary school, high school. Our parents live across the street from one another. So he's literally the boy, not next door, but across the street.
Okay.
He's just a phenomenal father, husband, track coach everything, super competitive guy. And so, you know, it definitely was a challenge for me to see him kind of struggling with something he couldn't work his way through. But talented photographer, just a good fun guy. I call him the mayor of Charlotte because everywhere we go, he knows somebody and somebody knows him. And so just a warm spirit, great person to know. And I feel fortunate to be in this thing called life with him.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what, Mike, I'm gonna help you out. You are approaching 15 years of marriage. This is a significant milestone for you, my dear brother. So
I knew it was somewhere close to that.
I don't know when your anniversary is, but I'm giving you a warning that this is a significant milestone. So make your statement on
Yes.
your anniversary day.
Yes. Thank you.
Won't make that mistake again.
And what a phenomenal accomplishment. Relationship is not easy. And certainly what you guys have had to go through beyond just this experience most recently has really brought you together and allowed your love to blossom. You know, as you think about that and you think about one another, I'd love for each of you to share what you cherish most as you reflect upon the fact that you've been married for 15 years. What are you cherishing when you consider that? MJ, I'll start with you.
You know, we are fortunate to have some good examples in our lives. So one of the things that I cherish most is partnership, and not, you know, not so much in the romantic sense as much as in the full life sense. You know, we are best friends. We talk about almost everything. And just having that partnership and knowing that no matter what I'm facing, work-wise, life-wise, career-wise, he's going to give me his honest opinion with my best interest in mind. It may not always be what I want to hear, or it may not always be just a rah-rah conversation, but I know it's going to be honest and it's going to come from a place of my best interest. And I have to say, I've had to really humble myself in some ways and learn from him in ways where, as an independent, career-oriented, strong woman, you know, we think we want partnership until we really are fully in and understand the surrender that has to happen in that. So right now, you know, the first thing that comes to mind, I could probably go on and on, but the first thing that comes to mind is just genuine, in-depth partnership.
That's beautiful. All right, Mike, what about you? What do you cherish?
Just, I know this is a very broad statement and I'll go into a little bit more detail, but just her being a great mother to our daughters, because coming from a large family and a tight-knit, a close-knit family, you know, I wanted to make sure that I had someone in my life who could, you know, who would kind of fit well into that role of having a close-knit family and just being a great mom to our daughters. That's like the main thing to me, making sure we raise our daughters well. As you know, as a working parent with, you know, raising two girls, at the age that they are in school, it's a lot going on with school, work, virtual school, you know, extracurricular activities. So it's like, you know, I know some of my friends, some of my boys who are in situations where they kind of have to manage everything. So I get, I'm being diplomatic. Basically, I'm glad I don't have a trifling wife.
Oh gosh.
But no, I'm serious, because some of my boys, they do. I'm not gonna say their wives are trifling, but they have to step up in pretty much all areas. Where here, it's like, I manage the athletics, she managed the academics. I know she's
on. You do some academics.
Well, a little bit, but what I mean is, she's the one who makes sure that the kids are registered. She's doing the research on the school. And it's nice to be able to just kind of hand that trust to her and know that, those types of things are gonna be taken care of. But and then the other thing is, she's a very career oriented woman. She's a hustler just like yourself. I love that ambition, but at times it does take a little bit of a time. But in the end, it's much appreciated by me.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So, Mike, when I met you, because I actually met you first,
Yeah.
and I considered it an honor when you showed up with your very pregnant wife for an activity that I was having at our home. And then I kind of kicked you to the curb, I think. And
Pretty much. And it's been like that since, but it's all good. It's
That's rare, Denise, because usually Mike's the life of the party.
He is, and he's still my dude, but he's right. We are kindred in a lot of ways in our desire to serve and our desire to pursue our aspirations and goals. And so I considered it an honor when he trusted you to be able to even make a connection with me. I considered that definitely a blessing. And so when I met Mike doesn't know this, but I used to brag on Mike all the time, because I had never in my ever life met an IronMan. Okay. And I got this picture that I'm going to put up here.
Oh,
this is the Mike I met. And you had such an incredible story getting even to this point where you had taken control of your health. I love to see the fact that you're grinning when you see this picture. You had taken control of your health. You had turned things around personally for you. I remember you had that truck and you had that bike. You didn't have your bike on the outside of the truck, like people carry. You had your bike on the inside of the truck, protected so that nothing could impact your training. And I just remembered the diligence that you had. You were diligent about what you ate. You were diligent about so much. So take me back, because I just kind of want to come through, but take me back to when you made this transition, because when I met you, you really had turned your life around. And I know it was the health challenges even back then that got you up off the couch and got you to the point where you became an athlete to become the Ironman that we see in this photo. So take me back to that journey, that initial journey of health.
Yeah. First of all, let me say, I didn't even know you had that picture, but yeah, that's one of those things that when people ask, what's one of the things you're most proud of in your life? And it was that is one of my proudest achievements in life. And, my journey to getting there was, it was actually my sister who did a triathlon, the Ramblin' Rose. I'm sure a lot of women are familiar with that, but it's a woman's, it's a short triathlon to just kind of give women, confidence in themselves and the ability to, like you said, get up off the couch and go accomplish something. So I went to my sister's event, and that's what inspired me. I said, man, I want to do a triathlon. Mm-hmm. So my dumb butt, I signed up for a triathlon, like, oh, I can do this, but wasn't even thinking it was an open water triathlon. So I'm like, man, what was I thinking? It's like, I got to swim in a lake with no bottom, no sides, no, buoys, nothing, no flotation devices. So I did my first sprint triathlon. And when I was training for that, Denise, I lost 18 pounds and my resting heart rate went down. My blood pressure went down. I felt better. I felt, more energetic. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, this seems like a healthy lifestyle to try and keep up. So I signed up for another triathlon, did a couple triathlons, and then it turned into doing a couple 5Ks, then 10Ks, then half marathon. And so I was like, when you and you ask Chuck, he'll tell you when you start training with folks, they peer pressure is they can talk you into some stuff that you would never imagine. I always say, I was like, I never do a half marathon. That's stupid. Next thing I know, I'm signed up for a half marathon. Same with a full marathon. I was like, okay, I've done a half marathon. I've actually done 20 half marathons, but I was like, I'll never sign up for a full marathon. That's stupid. Next thing I know, my running group talked me into doing a full marathon. I still think it's stupid to run 26 miles. I really do. I've done it twice, but I still think it's just crazy. But and then just again working out with other triathletes, they were all like, "Oh, you should sign up for Augusta. It's a great race." And again, that peer pressure got me. I signed up for it, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. I will say that. And to your point, yes, I've just been continuing to run because it does have some great health benefits. And like I said, when I did the half Ironman, I was in the best shape of my life. I felt like.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Because I know you had some health challenges even before that when you started that journey, and it turned it all around for you. The focus that you were able to do to get healthier. And Chuck agreed with you. He said it is very stupid to run too so he definitely agreed with you on that. And so I in my life, I didn't know anybody who had done an Ironman, and I would be like, yeah, my friend, he's an Ironman, that was a big deal for me. So I was like, you were bragging material for me when I talked about you. And so when I always reflect on you, I always think about your energy and your commitment to that healthy lifestyle. And I think about how you have even allowed that to translate into things that you're doing with your daughters, and how you are now taking on the role of coach, where that has come to the forefront. So MJ's like, yeah, he's a photographer. He's a photographer after he coaches first, right?
Boom. There you go.
I remember
priorities in order.
To schedule a pitch, a session. He was like, I got to see when practice is, when races are. And, he let me know what proper order it comes in. And I love that commitment to your daughters, but you translated that to them. And I think that's an important message, because we do have the capacity to be able to inspire that health rigor in our children by what they see us do and what we encourage them in. Unfortunately, I was a couch potato for most of my girls, formative years. And so I didn't do a very good job inspiring them the way that you inspire your beautiful little girls. But I think that that's great what you're doing with them. And so when I heard the story of you taking ill and really having to face your health challenge, I was stunned, right? Because we often have this impression that healthy people don't run into these types of issues, and the commitment that you had around your health, the commitment that you had around all the practices that come along with that, but it came in. And so I want you to kind of walk us through that, because it wasn't emergency in the sense of they took you from the ER to the surgery, but 2 months is pretty quick to learn that something is going on and then find yourself needing surgery. So before we get to the surgery, how did you respond when you sensed your body wasn't doing? Did you ignore it? Did you right away do something? Did MJ have to pull your coattail and make you go to the doctor? Tell us what that looked like.
Yeah, so to your point, I had gotten a little bit lazy. I wasn't working out as much as I was previously, but I had gotten back to, well, first let me point out something. And it just dawned on me when I was upstairs, put my clothes on. Today actually marks exactly 1 year on the eve of my surgery. So last year, my surgery was February 11th.
Wow.
So, tonight marks the 1 year, basically eve of my surgery from last year.
Wow.
So it's just ironic, the timing of this.
That's a blessing.
But yeah, to answer your question, I wasn't super worried at first because when the first ailments came on, it didn't seem very alarming. It was some odd stuff that all happened at the same time. So it was like three things that kind of all happened around the same time. And it's like I literally just woke up one morning and had like it felt like what was a pinched nerve in my shoulder on my right side. So it's kind of like in the neck area. Then I also had a very, very light like bit of numbness in my fingertip on my left hand. And then I felt in my left foot what felt like at the time like a tight muscle. It didn't feel like numbness at the time. So again, these were the very, very first symptoms. Um, so that continued for maybe like 2 weeks, right? So then I went to the doctor. So nobody like had to pry me to go to the doctor. It was just one of those things. You know, I actually I take that back. I was going to the doctor for like a nagging cough. And while I was there, I was like, you know, hey, I'm having these other issues as well. But the initial doctor, he kind of just did a diagnosis. He did the regular reflex test, and he was like, he couldn't see any correlation between what was going on my left side and what was going on my right side. So he gave me a muscle relaxer for the pinched nerve and sent me on my way. Um, and so then after that, I just kind of kept monitoring things. That tightness that I felt in my Achilles and my left foot, kind of it started to go more from my Achilles up to my calf. And then at the same time, the numbness in my fingers on my left hand kind of started to get a little bit worse. So I was starting to get a little more worried then. You know, I just kind of I started researching myself because you know that's what most of us do when we have some weird uh, symptoms. We kind of go look up things on the internet, WebMD, whatever. And so initially, you know, it was I was all over the place as far as like it could be diabetes because diabetes does run in my family, my father and my grandmother. Um, you know, so that was one thing I was thinking about. And then it was like a few other things, but at the same time, that numbness was getting worse and worse, right? So the numbness in my fingers was kind of going from my fingertips more up my fingers, kind of almost to my forearm. And then the numbness in my foot, what started in my Achilles was now my foot, then my calf, and then it continued to get worse. Like it went, the numbness started to go up my knee, my leg, then my torso. So it was like progressively getting worse within, like you said, within like months. Yeah. So then I'm, you know, at that point, I'm like looking, doing more research. And honestly, at one point, I thought it could be like MS because that was something described as like one of those symptoms. So because that initial doctor I went to kind of like, I'm not gonna say blew me off, but you know, didn't take it. I didn't feel like he took it as serious as, you know, because you know when something's not right with you, right? You know, that's, I mean, everybody, I would assume everybody's in touch with their bodies enough to know when something, you know, just is more serious than like basic stuff. So I scheduled an appointment with a neurologist because.
No, you went to two other doctors.
Did I?
I have to interrupt here.
Oh, go ahead.
Normally, it's, you know, your spouse kind of prodding. Normally, the wife prodding the man, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. I actually made the mistake of doing the opposite. I said, oh, you probably just need to go to the chiropractor. So we were going to the chiropractor.
She did say that.
And, you know, I thought maybe it was just stress or, you know, he was still all during this time doing Orange Theory and working out some. So he did not stop.
But I was very uncomfortable because, like to her point, I was still trying to run and work out. I wasn't in any pain. It's just, it's hard to describe. When you have that much numbness, it's just a very weird feeling. Like it felt weird to just walk into the grocery store. Like every time I take a step, I would feel like my muscles like vibrating in a weird way because, like I said, it was just like this weird numbness I can't explain. So it wasn't painful. It just felt really uncomfortable to walk and even more uncomfortable to run. So that's when I was really starting to get worried.
But he would continue. He went to several doctors until finally one doctor recommended a neurologist and an MRI. But he did not stop. He kept going forward. And I really applaud him for that because you know, sometimes when we just think, okay, maybe it's in my head, maybe I'm just getting older, maybe it's this or that, we may not really keep working to come to a solution. And so I wanted to point out that he was very much an advocate for his own health and sought out medical treatment from a number of doctors and physicians to try to address this. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, she and I can't remember all the details, but I do remember I requested blood work to make sure that you know, it wasn't some weird kind of cancer, you know, creeping into my body. Again, I was leaving all options open at this point. But my I had an initial neurology test. That came back just fine. Basically, my nerves were normal and my muscle function, everything was firing like it was supposed to. But I still had this numbness that was progressively getting worse. So luckily, that neurologist, or one neurologist, he recommended me to you know, the neurologist that like do brain and spine stuff. So went to one neurologist, got an MRI, and when it came back, I'll never forget that Friday, because I went and got the MRI Friday morning, and then I got a call back Friday evening. So already I was on edge, because when they call you back with test results the day of, after hours, this was like 5:30. I was like, okay, this might not be great news. And so when he told me what was going on, it was diagnosed as a Chiari-1 malformation. And what that is basically where there's a compression in the base of your skull, and your cerebellum, it's not enough room for your spinal fluid to flow down your spinal cord like it's supposed to. There's a compression which causes that spinal fluid to get backed up in your spinal cord. And it was causing these things called syrinxes on my spine. And you can see it. I mean, I saw it in the MRIs. There's like these white spots where spinal fluid had built up, pressing against my spine, pressing against my nerves. And so we had a ski trip scheduled for the next weekend. And now that first neurologist made it sound like it was something really serious, because he was like, you know, I recommend that you just take it easy. Don't do any running, no working out, no roughhousing with the kids. That's when I was like, oh my God, what is going on? You know, it's like I can't even play with my kids like I normally can. So we had to cancel that ski trip, because come to find out later on, basically, if I would have been in a car accident, it could have caused like permanent paralysis. So we went to one neurologist, and he was showing me what was going on. And he recommended me to another neurologist that kind of specializes in that type of surgery. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to mention is there's really no option to resolve this other than surgery. The biggest thing I had to come to grips with was, it's like, I'm 43 years old. I've been living, you know, I've been feeling just fine for 43 years. And come to find out, this birth defect is like causing me all these problems all of a sudden. So it was really hard to come to grips with that. How, you know, like you said, yes, I've been healthy. I've been running marathons, doing IronMan. Then all of a sudden I have like this debilitating numbness. And there's nothing I can do about it. Surgery was the only way to fix this, unfortunately. It was one of those things that was going to continue to get worse and worse. And I don't know what it would have looked like had I not gotten the surgery
at the time that he did.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that kind of got my attention was not just the numbness. In the grand scheme of things, that was probably the least symptoms that people experience. I was hearing the doctor say a lot of people, especially women who don't adhere to their own wellness and health, they come in and they're paralyzed because they've let it go on too long, or they can't swallow anymore. They've lost the ability to swallow, or a lot of people complain of Chiari headaches. Because of that buildup of pressure. And so I was very thankful. I did notice over the last few months that he was having these symptoms, a change in his, I don't want to necessarily say demeanor, but a change in his jovial nature, a change in his ability to just be himself. And I, you know, even before he probably noticed, I noticed him cutting back on some things that maybe didn't feel normal to him, but maybe he couldn't put his finger on it. And so I felt very fortunate. As soon as they gave the diagnosis, we started seeing specialists, and he was on the schedule to have the surgery the second week in March of last year. And some people, unfortunately, just aren't a candidate for surgery. And so the doctor called and said, we've had an opening on the, and literally within a week, we had to pull a lot together, getting our children. We had a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old at the time. We had to get them situated. We had a lot of legal paperwork that I'm embarrassed to say that we just did not have in place, at the time, that we had to get taken care of, and insurance kind of things to get set up. And at the time, no one knew that a pandemic was looming. We heard of COVID, and we heard,
it hadn't really hit the States yet. So that wasn't a concern at the time. But one other thing, in addition to the paperwork she was talking about, at work, I had to start researching and figuring out the process for short-term leave, medical leave, because they said I'm going to need to be out of the office after surgery at least 3 weeks. So to her point, just pulling together a lot of paperwork that most folks just normally don't have ready.
Yeah. It's almost like you hear those benefits, but you just kind of nod your head, right? Until it's time, and you like, exactly what does this say? Exactly.
Yeah, I'm honestly, Denise, I'm like, I'm never gonna need short-term disability. I'm never gonna need long-term disability. But here I am, like you said, reading all the fine print on short-term disability, medical leave, and it's a lot to understand.
Yeah, it is. And I think one of the things that I want to make sure is understood, especially in this instance, if I recall correctly, we're talking about your symptoms coming on in the fall, right? In like November to February is when you started your patterns with the doctors. And then to your point, a year ago today, you were preparing yourself for surgery. So that's a very accelerated pace to, one, have to understand what is going on, learn what's going on, and then realize, hey, I've got to have brain surgery. That's pretty incredible. Now, MJ, from the seat that you were in, right? Because you bring up all the nurturing aspects of what this is going to mean to our family. And, for as much as they may have wanted to downplay it, that's a pretty significant surgery to undergo, right? Tell me what you're feeling in this experience, especially because, it's easy for us to say, you're going to be all right. You've seen him be the superhero kind of guy. So you're thinking you're fine, you're healthy, you're okay. And then you discover that that's not the case. Tell us about what's going on with you.
So, when everything started, we started getting the information. I had to really kick into just execution mode. And so, I had to put the attorney hat on, and I just started going through the things that needed to be taken care of. I don't think the emotional side of it really hit me till he was in the midst of surgery. I did, we had to prepare, power of attorney. We had to make sure we had end of life instructions, just a lot of things in place. And that was real eye-opening, because I've done that work for people as an attorney, but to do it for yourself and your spouse is just something else. And so that was very challenging. I didn't have time to really sit and think about what that would look like, or what all of the what ifs. And so I'm glad about that. But the surgery, on the 11th, of course, I'm anal, so I wanted to have the house completely clean and all the groceries bought and all the girls' clothes laid out while we were going to be in the hospital, because I was anticipating being in the hospital with him for about a week. And we are fortunate to have family here who would take care of our girls. And so I also had to make sure for them that I kind of maintain a steady temperament, so that I didn't scare them, because they see their daddy as Superman, and so I didn't want to disrupt that. The surgery was supposed to take about 2.5 hours. At hour 3, I'm nervous. At hour 4, I was losing it. At hour 5, I was out of my mind. And the doctor came out, and he's a very suave, handsome guy. And he came out and he looked very, exasperated is the best word I can come up with. He just came out, and he knew we had a great conversation, several great conversations with him. So he had a good feel for our personality and the kind of people we were. And he just, I knew this was personal. As with all doctors, they really care about their patients. And he took the time to explain and kind of calm me down a little bit that Mike was doing okay. But it didn't dawn on me immediately that how big it was until, like I said, the hours went on. He had to have not only the surgeon there, he had to have several neurologists there to do nerve tests throughout the surgery to make sure he didn't lose feeling or nerves. He had to have a cardiologist there to check his heart, anesthesiologist, 2 anesthesiologists actually, to keep him fully under. The surgery had to be performed with face down, so he had to have some type of physician there to check for like bowel and gastro function. It was a lot. There were literally like so many specialists in the room, but I really commend the medical staff. And the other scary thing that happened, he doesn't remember, but after surgery, and his mom and dad came over and sat with me. It was maybe about 3 or 4 hours after he came out of surgery, and they put him in the ICU room.
I don't remember none of this, by the way.
And the nurses said, "Oh, you can come see him." And I came to the door, and they were talking to him kind of loud. And I was like, "Why are they yelling at him?" And I didn't realize he was still like under anesthesia, but awake enough where he could respond. And they said he had been telling jokes, but when they said, "Oh, your wife is here," he yelled my name like Rocky. Big up! And I literally almost collapsed on the floor because I thought something was wrong. I was like, "Oh my God, what's wrong with him? He can't hear, he can't see," And the nurse had to like attend to me because I was literally like, "What is wrong?" And so they had bathed him, and he was there but not there. And so I was talking to him and letting him know I was there and he was okay and everything, and but those next couple of days, kind of just watching my Superman have to be, walk down I'm having to help him walk and talk and kind of,
And chew.
Oh gosh. They brought him this big piece of chicken. I was like, his tongue is swollen. How is he gonna eat this? But you have to be, you step out of the role just as wife and saying, I've got to be a caregiver, I've got to be an advocate, I've got to be an administrator, I've got to step into this role. And so it was very eye-opening and challenging, but I feel so blessed and fortunate that I could be there and do that for him while he was in the hospital.
Absolutely.
And just one other small detail, Denise, this is a surgery where I'm face down the whole time and there's pins in my head to keep me like completely still. So trying to think, was there any other details? I will tell you this to try and bring some light to this. I actually never told you this, but I had intended to play a joke on her after the surgery and act like I had amnesia and didn't know who she was, but I completely forgot.
You forgot about forgetting. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But I was so out of it. Like this is like heavy amnesia. Yeah. I mean, I'm heavy anesthesia. I meant to say.
Yeah. That journey is incredible, and I'm just grateful that you can stand here, sit there with humor now, and be able to reflect on it and know just how far God has brought you and blessed you a year later to be able to share. It's very tender when you're in a relationship and you care deeply about someone who has taken ill in any way. The heartstrings that it pulls on you, it is like nothing you ever imagine, and I can remember when, I walked in and Chuck was in the hospital and he was dealing with this blood pressure, and that was kind of a turning point for him. You almost feel helpless, like you really feel helpless in that moment, when your husband, the one you love, the one that you have committed your life to, growing old with, is laying there in need of help, and there's nothing you can do in that moment to help them. And so that's why it's so, I have to applaud you for being willing to be diligent about pursuing and getting answers for yourself, because there are so many men. You know, one of the things that probably I get DM'd about a lot from the First Wives Club are women who have husbands who refuse to go and seek medical attention when they need it. And I don't understand it. And it's very heartbreaking to their wives to know that they need help and to know that they need attention on diabetes or blood pressure or anything. And I don't get it. And I'm glad to hear that that wasn't the case for you. But help us help these women, right, Mike? What if anything we can do as a wife, as someone who loves, that wants to make sure we can grow old together? What can we do? What can we say? You know, as you reflect upon uh, maybe even yourself with other areas that you might have dismissed your health. I hate to put you on the spot and be the voice for all men, but we can use some help. We can use some help because it's a lot of women, I'm telling you, whose husbands refuse, and I don't understand it. I don't get it. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm very well aware of that stereotype that comes with men not wanting to go to the doctor. I don't know if it's just like a macho thing, a male ego thing, but let me say first, men, we have to get over that part of our egos. But what I would say as far as to the wives, um, first and foremost, I feel like I'm stating the obvious, is just be supportive.
Mhm.
The other thing is do as much, if not more, research than I don't know how much research some of the guys do, but it's like you have to go and do that research if on their behalf.
Mhm.
In this situation, I did a lot of my own research, but once we figured out what I was dealing with and how serious it was, then you know she was super supportive. She did the research she needed to do, and in her case, she got everything together in preparation for the surgery. Um, and when I say be supportive, not only in the things that need to be done in regards to whatever the ailment is,
Mhm.
but just from an emotional standpoint, because I'll be honest, I don't think I can't remember, remind me, but I don't know if I expressed this as much to her, but mentally I was going through some things, like, because I don't remember the exact date, but I know a couple weeks before my surgery is when Kobe died.
Mhm.
And that hit me hard because I looked at the relationship with him and his daughter. And then I started thinking, oh my God, like I'm getting ready to have this major surgery. I
Mhm.
trust doctors, they're specialists. They've done this 100 times, but you and I both know, Denise, things go wrong. I
Mhm.
mean, in any profession. Um, both coming from IT, when something goes wrong in IT, it's an easy fix. You
Mhm.
submit a change request and you fix it, right? Neurosurgery, not not quite the same. So the reason I had mentioned earlier that this was the 1 year eve before my surgery,
Mhm.
is because I'll never forget the shower that I was taking that last night before surgery.
Mhm.
I was sitting there like washing, like, man, what if this is the last shower I ever take?
Mhm.
You know? And like just saying bye to my girls, like when we were going to the hospital, you just never know. Like again, the whole Kobe thing was like in my head the whole time. I'm like, is this the last time I'm gonna see my family?
Mhm.
So just be supportive in those types of things that the men might be dealing with.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and there's a comment, a couple comments in the chat that I think are pretty key to keen in on. And one of them is
Mm.
just saying Black men are scared to go to the doctor because of the fear of the unknown. And I think that that's true, but I don't know if you're paying attention to your wife, to her body language and the look on her face. You can still see how scared she was and how she's responding to even this question being asked now. And I would challenge any man watching to pay attention to the language, the body language that MJ is giving at this time, because that's the same body language that we feel when we are faced with this potential threat of us feeling helpless with a looming concern that goes unaddressed and unrecognized by the person we love the most. And I would just admonish every man to take their health seriously and don't stop on the first report, just like you didn't. If it don't sound like it makes sense, then let's keep going till we get the right, the right kind of words that line up with what's going on. But doing nothing, it just paralyzes those that love you most. And I just would admonish all of us to just really realize how valuable our husbands are, how valuable our families are. And it is important for us to at least go get the information and then decide whether or not we agree or disagree. But refusing to even go is just such an impactful detriment to everything your wife committed to when she said I do. And taking care of ourselves is a vital aspect of that. So I commend you. I really, really do. And I hope that we are challenged to do better, absolutely better, with making sure we don't just be passive about it. Were you gonna say something, on Jay?
I was going to say too, I think just in general, a lot of people, especially people of color, are really concerned about just medical treatment. But, you have to find a medical provider you trust. I really, when we started having children and, going through that process, I encourage Mike at least every other year to get a physical, a checkup. I researched and found him a doctor he felt good about. He ended up meeting with a couple different doctors. And so he was already, I have to say, he was already in the process. I would have to say, babe, you had your physical this year. Let's get it. Let's check on it. Let's get it done. But, the one thing I think that people don't realize is when you feel something in your body is trying to tell you something. It's sending you a signal. Hey, check on me. Check on this. And sometimes we'll, oh, I've just been working out too hard. We'll dismiss it. And that dismissal sometimes could be the difference between life and cure. I won't say the other word, but it could be the difference in how you're treated, what kind of treatment is available to you. It's kind of like I liken it to, and men probably can't identify with this, but when you're having a baby, if you wait to the very last minute, you're not going to get any pain medication. You're going to have to birth that baby, just naturally. Whereas if you kind of go in the right timing. So sometimes it's not about anything other than the timing. Just go routinely and get it checked out. And, find a physician. There's enough physicians out there, especially physicians of color, for men and women, that if that's what you feel you would make you more comfortable, there's enough people out there to talk to your boys. Who's your doctor? And that's exactly what we did. I had Mike reach out to some of his boys. What doctor do they go to? You want to go check him out? And would you say that was a good way to kind of?
Absolutely. And it's one of those things. Hearing it from your spouse is one thing, but hearing it from your circle of your boys, that's it makes a difference. It really does. So yeah, to her point, she was like, "Hey, do you feel more comfortable reaching out to such and such, one of your buddies, and get some information from him?" So that did help a lot.
That's awesome. There's another comment that talked about people are agreeing with you. People are listening with their husbands, which I think is wonderful, and saying that the emotional support that you called out is really, really key. And I think we as wives need to recognize that too, on how we show up. you know, because we can show up differently, that rather than nagging, we can show up more supportively to help them unpack and understand, kind of like what you were saying, MJ. You know, let's figure out how to solve it a different way. You know, let's ask people in your network. Let's see if we could tap into it. But sometimes we just fall into that nagging mode, and you know, men become real dismissive at that point when the nagging
Guilty.
and so, you know, I am so elated and I'm thankful to be able to have this conversation on this side of it. But I want to talk about what this experience did for your relationship, right? Because you don't come through something like this and remain the same. And so now on the other side of it, what can you notice or value more about your relationship together now that you have this victory under your belt?
I'll start on this one. I know she's got my back no matter what, thick and thin. I know I can count on her to, you know, support me and give me whatever I need, and you know, just make sure that the things that need to be taken care of are taken care of. As far as preparation, make sure the girls are straight. So just, you know, I already knew she was that type person, but like you said, going through a situation where all of those great qualities are put to the test, it just reinforced knowing that if I ever go through anything like that, she's got it covered. The other thing I'll say is, you know, it was obvious to me that if on the flip side, I would have to make sure I step my game up and be equally supportive of her if she was going through something like that. So she gave me the blueprint of what I might need to do in the supporting spouse role if the tables were turned. So beautiful. Good job.
What about you?
Okay.
What about you? What do you value more about the relationship now on this side of it?
I think we are more open and in depth with what we're feeling, not just and what we're thinking, not just kind of on surface level items, but like in our person. And so one thing it's done for me, and I'm glad to hear him say that, is that you, as wives, as women, we take care of everybody else. But if I don't take care of me, I can't be there for everybody else. And so what it's done for me is I've been able to say to him, I need to take care of me in this way right now. I need to care for myself in a way. And so I think for our relationship, he understands the importance of that so much more now, because we can't, you know, our relationship was tested. You know, there were areas of our relationship that just were not functioning as normal. We couldn't hang out and laugh and have fun, and there was just a number of things that kind of were inhibited during that time. And so I think for our relationship, it's really forced us to value ourselves as individuals to be better, to come back and be part of the whole. So that's one thing I would say. The other thing I would say is that life is so short. Life is so short. Don't miss an opportunity to celebrate, to love, to hug, to apologize, because it's just never there. We don't have an infinite amount of time here. I mean, there are times where you just don't have that opportunity. And so that has really just made me really appreciate, and we communicate our appreciativeness of each other a lot more. Thank you for doing that. Even stuff that quote unquote you're supposed to do. Thank you for taking the trash out. I appreciate you doing that. And I've always been the type, and I think you would attest to this, for the most part, I try to use loving language. I hate nagging. I hate it. I don't like when people talk down to their spouses, but it's made me even more, it comes from a deeper place now. Like, I really appreciate you doing whatever it is you did, even if it was something you were supposed to do. And so I think for our relationship with you, I think that's probably been some of the ways.
I agree.
Okay. One of the questions in the chat is, well, how long was the healing process and how did the girls do with it all?
I can talk about the healing process. I'll let you kind of talk about the girls. But as far as the healing process, um, once I came out of surgery, I was in neuro ICU for 3 days,
4 days.
4 days, so that they could monitor like all of the, just neuro functions. I had to take like a swallowing test to, make sure that the timing of my swallowing was right, because you don't want like food and water going into your lungs. So I was in neuro ICU for 4 days, then a regular room for 1 day.
2 days.
Was it two?
2 days.
We already know I'm not great with numbers. And then, so basically, yeah, roughly the healing was, right after surgery, I was in the hospital for a week. And then once they released me to go home, so basically what they told me is like 4 to 6 weeks, I would be ready to go back to work. But the full healing process was going to take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And I will be honest, like even 4 months, 6 months after the surgery, I wasn't like my normal self still. No, I mean, nothing was wrong, nothing hurt. It's just, it would be like weird little stuff. Like, if I would like bring my head up real quick, I would see like flashes of light, like somebody had just popped a flash on the camera. And I realize now that my body just wasn't back to its full strength. I can't say a year from surgery, February 11th last year, I feel 100% now. I'm back to running, lifting weights, playing with the girls, doing everything. So 4 to 6 weeks, like post surgery, before you're ready to kind of get back to doing, working, driving, that kind of stuff. And then honestly, anywhere from, I'd say 8 months to a year to feel completely normal, like yourself again. And as far as the impact that it had on the girls,
so our youngest, she knew daddy we had to be careful with daddy. They like to roughhouse with him. And so, I had to tell them for a while, you can't roughhouse with daddy. And, she would draw pictures. Our oldest daughter was.
Oh, she getting ready to cry.
It was hard for her.
Yeah, because again, we didn't want to fully disclose the seriousness of the surgery. We didn't want to give them all of the, worst case scenarios, right? We knew what the worst case scenarios were, but we didn't want to express that to them. So, I would say they took it great, just because we didn't fully disclose the true seriousness of this. So
they were too little.
Yeah, that was intentional.
Yeah, they were too little.
But yeah, after I came home, like she said, it was just, again, not knowing the full seriousness, they just had to be careful about where my incision was. But now it's like, everything's back to normal. We playing, wrestling. You probably saw, tossing them on the bean bags in the basement.
Yeah.
So just back to having our normal fun.
Across the room.
Hey, she loves it.
That's what we do. That's what we do.
But I sent Alyssa, a video from the hospital. I had recorded Mike talking or saying something, and I was sending it to them as a comfort. See, daddy's okay. But my sister-in-law showed it to them. Youngest one was like, oh, okay, great. High five. See when he gets home. Alyssa, she said she was inconsolable for hours because she could tell he wasn't his normal self. And so because my
face was swollen.
Yeah, she was just like, no, this isn't my daddy. Who is this? So it took her a little bit of time to like really just calm down from, everything. And at 8 years old, she's scared. She's seen her daddy running and doing all of her things. And so, but they're doing fine now. They've been very helpful. And, I had to slow him down because he was super ready to get back to everything, driving, and he probably started activities too early. And we have to give our bodies time, but the girls, they've adjusted pretty well, and now everything's back to normal. So
that's so awesome. That's good. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm just grateful for this happy ending. I'm grateful that you can missile launch your baby across the room to the beam. I'm grateful for that. And I'm just really, really thankful for a year later having such a story of success. So here we challenge people to build a life they love without apology. And so I want to close out with my LLH questions. And so think about this. Tell me your life wisdom. If you would tell your younger self something about life, if you could, what would you tell your younger self? What wisdom would you give your younger self about life? Either of you can go.
Wow, that's a serious question.
Take full advantage of every opportunity that comes your way.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is a lot of times we think to ourselves, oh, I'll do this later, or I'll do that later. And, sometimes not only does it not happen, but you may not be able to do it. It may not present itself in that way again. So by talking to my younger self, take full advantage of every opportunity that comes your way, whether it's travel, whether it's a job opportunity. You're not glued to anything. So, experience life in the most full way you can when an opportunity presents itself.
Mike, what about you? Your younger
Yeah,
self?
Denise, I would say, because we've just had this conversation and I'm kind of recounting this whole, the whole ordeal that we went through. I would just say cherish each day because, you never know when or how your life will be impacted by things either within your control or without, outside of your control. So I know it's very cliche, but truly, like, just cherish each day because you never know what tomorrow looks like.
Awesome. What about love? What love wisdom would you give to your younger self if you could?
Oh, this is good. I can't wait to hear this one.
Love wisdom. Wow. On that one, I would say I'm speaking candidly. Just make sure you appreciate your spouse,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you got a good one. Just make sure you appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
Love wisdom. I think we have to learn to give grace in everything.
Mm-hmm.
We both full grown working adults when we came together, households combining, and we're quirky. I'm quirky, and there's habits and ways that we think that maybe we just think everybody thinks like that. And I just think we have to learn to give our spouses grace to have a different opinion, to have a different perspective, to do things differently, and to not expect that my way is the right way all the time. So just giving grace.
Okay. And then finally, what's your happiness wisdom? What would you tell your younger self if you could about happiness?
I gotta go first again.
Oh, I go first. I think it's going to link back to the first thing that I said, that, pursue every opportunity fully, pursue joy in the same way. I think a lot of times we get bogged down into titles and roles and routines. And it's like that, if it's not bringing you joy and it's not making you happy, pursue what does make you happy and bring you joy, and do it in a way on your own terms, because sometimes life won't give you permission to pursue it the way you want to, but you have to carve your own path and pursue it that way. So I just say fully chase your joy and your bliss. You only go through this life one time. It only goes one direction. So might as well enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And I would say my happiness advice for my younger self would be to, and luckily I've followed that own advice. My own advice, but make time for the things that matter to you. It's like, don't overwork yourself, don't overstress yourself to the point where you're missing out on the things that like truly make you happy. And in my case, it's my family. So I was doing, with the photography thing, I was shooting weddings hot and heavy for a couple years, shooting like 20 plus weddings a year. And it got, after having kids, it got to the point where I scaled back from weddings because, yeah, I could go spend all day at, bride and groom's wedding making some money, or I could be at the house with my 2 little girls doing nothing. And it got to a point where I was happiest being at home with my 2 girls versus, I'm like, I ain't worried about that money. Like, I'd rather spend my Saturday at home with my girls because you can't get that time back. So it's like, make time for what matters to you. And I have to get on her about that sometimes too, because she's doing signing, she's doing closing, she's showing houses. I'm like, look, sometimes we just want you to be here with us in our pajamas, just sitting around doing nothing. So
it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to be here. I have that hustle genes.
So yeah, y'all both got that hustle mentality. That hustler mentality.
It's hard. It is hard. It's hard.
No, I know, but yeah, seriously, just make time because you hear this all the time in corporate America. It's like if something happens to you, they're gonna backfill your position and not think nothing else about you. So that resonated with me because I'm like, I gotta look out for myself. Jobs are, you can replace a job, but you can't replace your happiness, your having good stress levels, things like that. So
beautiful. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys making yourselves available to share. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And finally, my last thing to say is this: success looks so good on you. So thank you very, very much.
Appreciate that, Denise.
Thank you so much.
In closing, I just wanted to point out, I do smell good. No, I'm pointing that out because when I was putting my clothes on, I was squirting cologne on. I'm like, wait a minute, this is going to be a virtual Zoom meeting. Why am I putting cologne on? I just wanted to point out, I do smell good.
You sit beside me.
Just saying.
All right.
Just FYI.
Use that to your
advantage. There it is. There
it is. Y'all.
See you, Denise. Have a good night.
Mike. That is Mike.
That's Mike.
Well, that's it, beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. Don't ever forget that you truly deserve life, love, and all the happiness your heart can hold. Be relentless in building a life you love without apology. I'm Denise Taylor, and you can always find me in our free Facebook community. Life, love, in the pursuit of happiness, easy to find. Now, if you want more information about my success superpowers, as I'm sure you do, download my free Success Superpowers ebook at DeniseTaylor.live/podcast. And one last thing, always embrace your power and go.